Steve Jobs was a strategic thinker of the first rank. He not only conjured visions of how we might do things differently, he solidified those visions into strategic intent, an obsession with winning, and he executed tactics brilliantly to bring those visions into being, time and time again. That's what made him such a success as a serial entrepreneur. Steve Jobs' career resembled that of Winston Churchill. He clashed often with his contemporaries. He saw his fortunes wax, then wane, then wax again. In fact, he could have faded away after any one of several professional disasters that would have left a lesser personality devastated. In 1985, he was forced out of Apple, the company he had co-founded. But he then quickly purchased a small animation and computer company from filmmaker George Lucas for $5 million, and he invested an additional $5 million of his own money. He became chairman and CEO of the company. The company was renamed Pixar, and Jobs began repositioning the company. Simultaneous with the Pixar deal, Steve continued his computer ventures by founding another computer platform development company called Next. Next had only mixed success, but both Next and Pixar anchored Steve in the high technology field. They served as important platforms for his continued interactions with major corporations such as IBM, Microsoft, and Walt Disney. Then, the mid-1990s saw what appeared as the reemergence of Steve Jobs, even his reincarnation. Under Jobs, Pixar had transformed itself from a high-end computer maker to a creator of feature-length animated films. And in 1995, it released its first blockbuster, Toy Story, which grossed more than $350 million worldwide. In 1996, Apple Computer bought Next, and it brought Steve back to the company he had co-founded 20 years earlier. Apple had declined in the intervening years, however. In fact, it was a company adrift. It produced a bewildering welter of computer models for no good reason that Steve could figure out. So he asserted himself. He managed to oust CEO Gil Amelio. He immediately recharted Apple's strategic course. He cut the payroll, and he got Apple out of the printer and server businesses. He slashed the number of different Apple computers by 70%. As Jobs would later say, deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. That's true for companies, and it's true for products. He brought focus and excitement back to the company. After one meeting in 1997, Jobs said this, "I came out of the meeting with people who had just gotten their products canceled, and they were 3 feet off the ground with excitement because they finally understood where in the heck we were going." In a dramatic demonstration of Kudoi, Steve redirected Apple's strategy in a single meeting, simplifying and riveting the focus of the company. On a whiteboard, he drew a diagram, a matrix with 4 quadrants. The columns were labeled Consumer and Pro. The rows were labeled Desktop and Portable. The engineer's task was to create 4 products, 1 for each quadrant. Former Apple employee Phil Schiller says that the effect of this simplified strategy was electrifying. Quote, "The result was that the Apple engineers and managers suddenly became sharply focused on just 4 areas." Interestingly, the board of Apple never voted on whether to approve the new strategy. Steve just forged ahead. And the resulting products were the Power Macintosh G3, the PowerBook G3, the iMac, and the iBook. The Pro users got the Power Macintosh and PowerBook. Consumers got iBrand products, which started with the iMac and the iBook. And at the same time, he laid plans to transform Apple into something new, something different. So he set his engineers in search of the next big thing. That next big thing, which arrived in stores just 2 years later, turned out to be the iPod, the device that transformed the music industry. And the larger strategy was even more breathtaking. Biographer Walter Isaacson put it this way: Jobs launched a new grand strategy that would transform Apple, and with it, the entire technology industry. Apple would no longer be just a computer company. Indeed, it would drop that word from its name. But the Macintosh would be reinvigorated by becoming the hub for an astounding array of new gadgets. These new gadgets included the iPod and iTunes in 2001, the iPhone in 2007, and the iPad in 2010. and the new gadgets worked seamlessly with one another, creating a ratchet effect. Each new Apple product could stand on the shoulders of previous Apple products. The strategy worked, and the business result was that Apple turned around completely and began a phenomenal run of innovation and prosperity. In May 2000, Apple's market value was 1/20th that of Microsoft. 10 years later, Apple surpassed Microsoft as the world's most valuable technology company, and by late 2011, it exceeded Microsoft's value by more than 70%. In all of this, Steve Jobs exhibited traits of the master strategist: focus, strategic intent, relentless determination and drive, brilliant insight at the crucial moment, carefully coordinated use of surprise at the launch of a new product, use of and precise execution of his strategy, and detailed follow-through. He is an iconic figure, and his impact, like our other exemplars of strategy, will likely continue for decades. Benjamin Franklin, Napoleon, Winston Churchill, John Kennedy, Vince Lombardi, Martin Luther King, Steve Jobs. These strategic thinkers serve as exemplars across the professions. They demonstrate the power of a great strategy, well executed in the face of titanic challenges. In the end, what does it mean to be a strategic thinker? It means extending the shadow of the future. It means pushing our horizon out. To broaden our sense of what that can mean, let's briefly consider one more figure, someone whose career suggests additional features about strategic living, features that may play an even larger role in the future. Born just a year before Steve Jobs, the media personality and producer Oprah Winfrey has forged a vivid personal brand and self-improvement mission that are even more omnivorous than those of the other figures we've considered. Oprah Winfrey's seemingly endless curiosity and her ability to convert even minor details from her personal life into an enduring brand remind us of author and publisher Benjamin Franklin. Oprah Winfrey has relentlessly voiced strategic intent in the mainstream of life's everyday battles. She has inspired millions, perhaps allowing a comparison or contrast with Winston Churchill. And just as Steve Jobs influenced tastes and preferences in technology for perhaps a generation to come, Oprah Winfrey has often shaped and influenced the American national dialogue on everything from books to entertainment, from politics to personal health care. You might regard these particular comparisons as exaggerated, but a strategic personality can thrive in virtually any field: politics, technology, science, entertainment, and so on. Moreover, consider this: the distance between us in our everyday lives and the greatest strategic minds is rarely as vast as we suppose. Those persons who are bold enough always have new realms for strategic endeavor. There's a quote from a famous poem that I like to recall in my own life as I grapple with the same variables that nettle us all. It isn't the burdens of today that drive men mad, but rather regret over yesterday and the fear of tomorrow. Regret and fear are twin thieves who would rob us of today. This quote from Robert J. Hastings reminds us that it's our attitude towards events that shapes how we deal with them. Strategic thinking skills cultivate an attitude capable of meeting those events. Becoming a strategic thinker means shedding the doubts, the uncertainty. It means mining the past for insight on the present so that we can embrace the future. What we want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. This informs what we do today. It tells us how to move our pieces on the great chessboard of life. These are the gifts of strategic thinking: a life without fear of the future, a life that is eager for and prepared for challenge, a posture of welcome toward the uncertainty that we all face, and a determination to bend that uncertainty to our own advantage. Recognition that each of us has choices. Determination to never be buffeted by events, but to influence events with our own will, our imagination, analysis, planning, and execution. Thinking strategically helps us to impose a bit of order onto a reality that remains stubbornly disorderly. It empowers us to lay down a rudder, to harness the wind, to propel ourselves in our desired direction. The benefits of strategic thinking are many: increased productivity, work satisfaction, more predictability, less stress, greater efficiency, perhaps more victories than otherwise, and the achievement of our goals more often than not. And while our journey is never free from the caprice of chance and uncertainty, thinking strategically surely makes the ride more enjoyable.